Hello everyone, welcome back to Cozy Tea. Today I'm going to show you how I turn this watercolor painting into this Procreate Dreams animation. Cozy up and I will walk you through my process. When I start off any canvas in Procreate Dreams, the first thing I want to do is set the FPS and the length of the animation. To do this, I click on the title where it says Dream 4. There are several presets in the FPS from 12 to 120, but you can also set your own FPS anywhere between 1 and 120. For this, I'm choosing 12 frames per second. Starting off here with the water animation, my goal is to create something that looks very pleasant. So this is quite an extensive process with several steps, but I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible. The first thing I do is I lay out the color of the waterfall. From there, I go into the layer option and I lower the opacity to the 70 percentile range. Using the pencil tool, I start off by adding some foam effect as well as a little bit of highlight where the front of the stair edge is at, just to show a little bit of movement. Using the pencil tool is real easy for this because it has that texture to it. So every time you do a line, it's not going to lay down exactly the same. And when you play it through, it looks like it's moving. Next, I use the light brush to add some highlights to those areas of the staircase also, to add that extra shine to where the water is coming down. That part is not animated, it is simply static, but it helps with the illusion. Next, I want to add some running lines to the water. This is just done with little scribbles across the surface, and then I'm going to do that frame by frame, about 4 or 5 frames each, to simulate that the water is rushing forward. I also do this on the front underside of the stair steps itself to create a little bit of depth. I lower the opacity of those just to make it look a little bit more like a shadow. So I continue to do this going forward. I add several different types of foam and water splashing by doing the same things, and you can see that here. I also add some little splash marks around the rocks inside of that cave at the top of the staircase just to really add some more movement. I like the water in this animation. It's very subtle, but it packs a wallop. It looks really pristine. It looks clean. It looks crispy. It looks hydrating. I would drink this water. Now I want to show you guys how I group frames here. Easy way to do that is to select all of your frames. You can do that by hitting the content button, taking your pencil and just swiping past everything you want to group together. After that, you can duplicate those groups, so it'll just pop up right next to it. And if you want to keep duplicating, you can do that from there, and it'll duplicate everything in that group. If you're going across a large timeline, that can be quite time consuming. So if you want to speed up the process, you can go, let's say 15 seconds in of grouped duplicates, and then content button, select all, group those together, and then you can duplicate in 15-second increments. There is a limit to how much you can group. I still don't know the analytics behind that. Sometimes I can do a lot, sometimes I can't. So it seems more internal than external. But what I do know is once you have them all grouped across the timeline, you can also ungroup them by pressing and holding, tap ungroup, and then it goes right back to the way it was. So if you don't want to keep them grouped, you don't have to keep them grouped forever. It's just a quicker way of duplicating your stuff across for background elements like a waterfall. The next part are the lily pads and the pond. I use the distort warp option to help shape it a little bit and get the right angle because I was having some troubles there. And then once I was done, I duplicated that a couple of times, and then 1 frame at a time from the beginning, I press the record button, I tap the canvas, and then I just drag that lily pad very loosely through the surface of the pond so it looks like it's moving around. And then I did that twice. The reason I didn't just duplicate the moved frame, the already recorded frame, is because it would do the same exact thing the other one was doing. So you would have to go through and adjust all those keyframes. It's easier to just start from the beginning on a fresh frame that hasn't been recorded yet. To line them up though, because I wanted them to have a perfect loop in the animation, I did have to go to the end of one and the beginning of another and line up those keyframes by tapping on them. You can see the move and scale option menu pop up, and then you can actually type in those numbers to match whatever you want it to match. So you can go in there and do that much work if you want to. It's ideal to not have to do as much of that as possible, but sometimes to line things up perfectly, that's essential. So for the dough, I'm just showing a little bit of my work here. I don't always do this, but sometimes I just want to prove that I'm actually drawing this stuff. So this is done in Procreate, and I've got the actual footage in combination with the Procreate time-lapse. And so I import that into Procreate Dreams. You can see I select all the layers in Procreate. I press and hold, I drag it over into Procreate Dreams. It always imports them in the opposite order of what they are in Procreate. So I think the way around that would be to change the order in Procreate itself. And it's just one of those steps you got to take with this thing. I was having me some troubles here, okay, with animating the turn of this deer's head, because I'm not a well-seasoned animator. I have a full-time job, so I've only got so much time. So I decided to do a fade into one frame from another. I did this by messing with the opacity. Tap the movie icon, hit filters, hit opacity, and then leave it at 100%. Tap after that on the same frame, opacity, lower it to 0. Put these at the end of the frame, close to each other, so it's a quick fade out. On the next frame at the beginning, do the same thing, but in reverse. Then you've got that fade out, fade in thing that you see in a lot of mobile game advertisements. And that's how you get around not knowing how to do something. But it's fine. It's all good. So next I animate the tongue. It's very simple, frame by frame. And then I also do a water animation around the tongue. So there's an interaction between the tongue and the water. It doesn't look like this pink line just going in and out of the doe's mouth. Part 4 is the sun rays. It took me a minute to kind of perceive how I was going to do this, but this is what I came up with. I use the light brush and the color yellow, okay? And I lower the opacity of that layer to about 30 or so %. Then I duplicate it a bunch of times. On the first one, I tap the screen, and I'm going to show a clip from another video here where you can edit the anchor point, and I'll just play that clip right now. The top and the bottom were moving opposite each other, which is not how a swing actually works. I wanted to swing from the chain. So in order to do this, you can click the top right where the 3 dots are. It'll open a little menu. At the bottom of that menu, it says Edit Anchor. On the image, it'll pop up this tiny little white cross. You can actually move that around to wherever you want, and that's going to be your new anchor point once you're finished. So I moved it to the top of the chain, and then when I hit the corner of the moving scale, I was able to get the swing to swing the way it would in real life. And then I move all of them individually like that, so it looks a little random and there's no real synchronization with it. It's not really automatic. And then afterward, because it was looking a little too harsh, I wanted it to be a little bit more luminescent, I go through and I increase the Gaussian blur just to really spread that out a bit, make it a little bit more subtle. Last but not least, for this video at least, is the gup. So we got the gup. I do this frame by frame, super simple. He's jumping out, going back in. I do the water splash and everything. But this is where I make it easy on myself. And that's what we're about at Cozy T, making it easy. There's no reason for this to be hard. It's hard enough as it is, right? I'm not gonna do this every single time, but I want to have more of the fish going on. I want him jumping out and back in throughout the pond. So I can duplicate that grouped amount of frames, and then I can move him around the canvas wherever I want. You can have this fish jumping out of the grass if you wanted to. It's up to you. It's your creative outlet. If you tap on the canvas where the fish is, you can tap the 3 dots on the top right, and then you can hit flip horizontal, and then he's jumping the other way. You could even do vertical, so he's jumping out and back into the sky. The options are limitless here. I mean, you can really do whatever you want to. And that's how I get him moving around the pond. And it's just real fun like that. It's real fun. I like how fun that is. I'm about to show it here real quick, but just 1 second. If you like the channel, you like the videos, hit the like button first, and then you can sub also. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time as always. I know times are timing right now. They always are. Things are difficult. People saying all kinds of stuff everywhere about a lot of things. But you know what? This animation, this is what I can control. What I do. Stay beautiful, stay you, stay true, and above all else, stay cozy. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right? Peace.